In this session, we are going to go through our store sales bar chart question again. So here is the original question that you will enter the sales for 5 stores. And then depending on the sales, you will display a bar chart, displaying a store name, displaying star, star, star. And the number of asterisks is based on the chart, is based on the sales divided by 100. In order to simplify the solution and prepare it for more requirement, let's create a store class. And this is very important reason for doing object-oriented programming. We want to simplify the solution and prepare for more requirement. We want to divide the code. So far, all these code are done within the same main method, and this can make your main method really long. We want to simplify the solution. We want to put the code into something outside your main method. Then we can, so then when there are more requirements coming in, it's easier to modify the code and to structure the code so that it looks easier for people to understand. So that's why we want to create a store class. This class should have a store name, string store name, and this attribute will only be initialized when the store is created and cannot be changed. But you can get an accessor, a get store name to get it. Then we have the double store sales, which contains the cumulative sales starting at 0. This is also another similar running total issue, right? Then the following two methods will be operating on this attribute. One is to add store sales. Each time there's a sales, you add it. And another is get store sales. In addition, the store class should have one more method displaying bar chart, which will display the store name, followed by a column, then followed by a star sign. The number of star sign is store sales divided by 100. So then we will have a main method, which will create 5 stores, each with at least 2 calls to add store sales. Then main method should call the display bar chart method to display the bar chart. Okay, so let's go back to here, create project class framework, create main method, and apparently we don't have static fields and the static method here. So we will start from creating the framework, which I already done. And we'll add the instance fields. So first one is string, store name, and the second one is double, store sales. Now let's add a constructor, which, I shouldn't use the Java doc first. Let me create the constructor before creating the Java doc comment. And public store sales bar chart. And apparently, store sales will be initialized to 0, right? So we don't need to specify add a parameter, but we do need a store name. We do need a name to initialize the store. So it will be store name. Let's call it S name. So here, store name will equals to S name. Oops. And store sales will be 0. Note that you already read from textbook that all instance field, all double and integer instance field will be initialized to 0. So you do not need this statement at all, but it's recommended you add it just so that you can clearly see everything, how everything is initialized, right? Now store bar chart, sales bar chart, string S, and we haven't talked about shadowing because shadowing is actually not practice. This is not recommended. Shadowing means your parameter is the same name, has the same name as your class instance name. So in this case, if we have both store name as the instance field, as well as the parameter, Java will get confused. That's why and Java by default will believe this one is a local variable. Store name is whatever comes in the parameter. It's not the class instance field. If you want to specify this one is an instance field, you need to use this keyword. Now that you can see the color matches between these two, and the parameter matches these two. But still, it's not a good way of doing this, of naming. So it's recommended that you not using shadowing. Instead, find some name, different name for parameter and for class instance field. Okay, so this is a constructor. The next step is to create the, oops, not this one, the getter and setters. And in this particular case, we do not have a setter. Rather, we have a add store sales. It's more like a business logic, but still, let's consider this as a setter. So here, add store sales means store sales plus equals to transaction amount. Then followed by the getter. Public, which will return the store sales. And finally, we have the public void display bar chart. Which will print out store name plus column first, and then plus here is not print line. Then we will start printing asterisks. So assistant for I, zero, I equals to 0, I less than store sales divided by 100, I plus plus. And although it's just one single print, as we discussed before, I recommend you to add curly brace. Right, and then finally, we should have a print line to complete the output of this bar chart. Okay, so now we will print out this bar chart, and let's create one in the main method. Bar chart equals to new, which will have the store name. Let's just call it store 1. And then, because we need to create a 5, so let's say BC1, bar chart 1, and BC2, BC1 dot add store sales. I'll put 300 first, and again by adding 900, so this will make BC2 1200. BC1 sells 1200. Now let's do BC2. This is store 2, and And how about I'll do a 300 and 500. So we're actually getting 800. So it's 1200, 800. And let me add one more before we start printing out the bar chart. So 3. And this one, let's say it's 1800. Okay. And this one should be called store 3. Then now let's do BC1 dot, I press the caption button, display bar chart. And now let's run. See, this is how it works. There's one thing you can change here, which is the display bar chart. Because like we said, in general, when you create an object, you should try to hide user interaction away from the object class itself. So you are not recommended to use the system print. What you can do is you can create a string and use the string. Let me do this. Let me copy this code and create a new method which is called display bar chart string, and by should be get bar chart string. And by the name, you will understand what's going to happen. Instead of a print, it's going to have a system. It's a string. S equals to store name, or let me just call it bar chart. String, store name plus this, and then each time bar chart string will add 1 asterisk. And because this is a bar chart string, there's no need to add a new line to it, right? So instead of, and eventually you need to return this, of course, and change the method return type. So instead of printing out, you are returning a string. This is a more stable way that you can provide you can make sure that your code, your object is not printing out things and giving user confusing information, right? So right now, if we do this, system.out.println bc1 dot get bar chart string, and this will be bc2 and bc3, and also let me comment out this so it's not going to interfere with our creation. And let's run. We get the store, and all the system input and output right now are located inside the main. So this is a recommended way of writing applications. Try to put all your user interface in the same location as much as possible. Even if it's not the same Java file, possibly you can put them all into one package. Separate user interface away from the logic behind. This is one of the topics that we will cover in another course, more advanced Java programming.